Hi, and welcome to a short tour of the Catalogue of Validation Methods. It's an online source of information about methods that can be used to identify, document, and assess learning outcomes. My name is Iwona Gmaj, and I'm a researcher and expert in validation of prior learning from Poland. I was also one of the creators of the catalog. But before I show you the website itself, let me answer the question, who developed such a tool and why? So the catalog was created by the Educational Research Institute as part of a series of projects aimed at supporting the implementation of the integrated qualification system. The system was adopted in Poland in 2015, and it was based mainly on the European Union's recommendations on the European qualification framework. Therefore, the system includes a Polish qualification framework, as well as it adopted the definition or the European definition of validation. This definition includes the three stages that I mentioned at the very beginning. That is identification of learning outcomes, documentation, that is gathering evidence for possessing these learning outcomes, and assessment. At the very beginning of the first project, we found out that the concept of validation is fairly new for most of our or the system's stakeholders. As a result, they often understood validation in terms of traditional school examinations. So as it comes to methods, they thought validation should be mainly tests. We also found out that depending on the sector, similar methods are called different ways and described in different ways. So we set out to, first of all, show the whole range of methods that can be used in validation besides tests. Secondly, we wanted to propose a common language for all the stakeholders to talk about these methods. So we proposed fixed terms and definition of the methods. And we also wanted to promote a learner-centered approach, which I think is really important in the case of adult learners, who often have different difficult or even negative experiences related to school examinations as well as school itself. And in those cases, the best suited methods are different than tests. They can be, for example, the portfolio method or the presentation method. And lastly, we also wanted to package this information in an attractive way, as well as make it easily accessible. And therefore, we created the catalog as a website. The URL of this website is now visible on the slide in green. And now I will show you the catalog itself. Okay, so here we are on the homepage of the Catalogue of Validation Methods. As you can see, the first information that pop up are the information on what is the catalog, as well as how validation is to be understood within the integrated qualifications system, and how it relates to other processes that take place within the system. And lastly, there is a video guide on how to use the catalog, and it includes English subtitles. But surely the main star of the homepage are the 10 methods that we distinguish in our typology of methods. And they are presented here in the form of honeycomb-shaped buttons, and each button is clickable. So what are these methods? Firstly, we have the analysis of evidence and statements, which is often also called the portfolio method, and as I called it already before. There is also the skills audit method, which is a complex method in Poland, mostly used by professional guidance counselors. We also have two types of observation in real-life conditions, that is mostly in the workplace. and in simulated conditions, that is, in controlled situations. For example, it is often used in formal education in the form of a practical test. We also have two types of interviews. An unstructured interview, which most often resembles a simple conversation, and a structured interview, which includes a scenario or predefined questions that are asked to the interviewee. We also have the classical theoretical test, and two types of debate, an unstructured one and the structured one. The structured one has to be applied using certain rules, like, for example, an Oxford debate. And the unstructured one is, like the interview, more free-flowing. And lastly, we have the method of presentation, which I am practicing, for example, now. After clicking on a button, you are redirected to a description, a detailed description of the chosen method. The description includes an infographic, and this infographic is downloadable in the PDF format. And it includes the main characteristics of a method. As well as on the right, you can see the types of learning outcomes that can be assessed using this method. We divided these learning outcomes into knowledge, skills, and social competencies for a clearer presentation. On the left, you can see the three validation stages that I mentioned at the beginning, on which the method can be used. In this case, the method is not applicable on the documentation stage. You can also see small icons with an eye at the center, and that means that there are additional information hidden here. Next, we also listed the resources needed for the use of each of this method. They relate to things like rooms or specialist equipment, but also people or specialists that are needed for applying the method, for example, a moderator or an assessor. And finally, the infographic, each infographic covers the possibilities of combining the given method with other methods listed in the catalog. The description, of course, also has a text form. It covers all the information I mentioned above, but in greater detail, and also other information. You can browse it through the panel on the left. And each description also relates to, includes a bibliography with additional materials that you can use. The descriptions also can be downloaded in PDF format, as well as printed in color and black and white. The descriptions are reachable not only through the homepage, but also through a drop-down menu above. You can see all these methods are listed here. And also an interesting tool that I wanted to show you, that is a tool for comparing validation methods. By clicking, you are again redirected to a honeycomb-shaped view or graphic of all the methods. But this time, when you click on them, you are selecting the given method to be compared with all the other ones. And you can choose up to 4 methods to be compared with each other. And to see the comparison, you have to click on the right the button Go to Comparison. As you can see, in this comparison, we did not cover all the information about each method, but only the main characteristics. So the type of learning outcomes, resources, and possibility of combining with other methods. Just to make the view clearer and easier to quickly compare. If you want to delete a method from this comparison, you can simply click this trash can icon beside it, just like so. And finally, the catalog also includes a section related to selecting methods for a validation process. And this guide starts with an introduction to the topic, the description of the main elements to be considered when preparing the learning outcomes, and a validation scenario, so a validation plan, as well as quality assurance and criteria for this quality assurance. It also covers factors that determine the choice of the method. It also includes an infographic just to make things easier again. Here you can see a model, this model 3 stages of validation, and how they include different specialists. For example, identification and documentation can include the help of a counselor. And assessment is generally done by an assessor, or a specialist that we call an assessor. This guide also covers factors that limit the choice of methods, and includes also a step-by-step guide on how to do it. This is, of course, our proposition on how to choose the methods. It includes five steps, and each step is described in text as well. And by clicking on the number of the step, you are redirected to the description of this step. This section also includes a bibliography, just as earlier, the descriptions of the methods. And this generally concludes our tour. We also have answers to frequently asked questions, as well as links to our other products that we prepared related to validation. So, for example, My Portfolio, a tool for creating a digital portfolio, and a good practice database that cover practices from all over the world related to validation. English publications related to our projects, and of course the projects themselves. So I encourage you to read all this information if you are interested, and also to explore, especially I think, the good practices database, as it can be interesting for you to get to know the institutions and processes that we chose, as well as qualifications that we chose for this database. If you have any questions about the contents of the catalog, on the choices that we made, or the additional materials that we included, please feel free to contact us through the page. As you can see, you have a contact form, as well as information on the institute, and a direct email in case of questions. If you ever find yourself in the Polish version of the catalog, you can toggle the language on the upper far right of the page. And this concludes our tour. Thank you for taking it with me. I sincerely hope that you will find the time to explore this website, as well as that you will find this information interesting and useful for you, even if you work with another policy in another policy context than in Poland. So thank you again. And if you have any questions related to this tour, you will find my contact information at the end of the presentation. Thank you very much. Goodbye.